Welcome back, everyone, to another Welcome to the J episode with a very important guest. I'm so happy to have him on. Before we get into all that, make sure you follow and like the Field 68 Media Network, where you can have content such as this, where different individuals are representing their alma maters, like I love to do every single week. This is our sixth guest of season 2 of the Welcome to the J podcast. He scored 824 points, 446 rebounds, 48 blocks, and 30 steals in a Blue Jay uniform. He tied the team in lead for 45 threes as a freshman. He also had big time dunks against rival Nebraska's junior that shocked the entire state. He was a first team All State as a senior in high school, averaging 20 points and 12 rebounds that year, including a 33-point performance. In his high school career, he scored 1,213 points and had 500 career rebounds at Berlin High. He is the pride of Berlin, Wisconsin. Toby Tobias Hegner, welcome to the J, brother.
What a fucking intro. I love that,
Man,
bro. Thank you. You got I got chills right now, dude. Like it's been a minute since I've heard something like that.
You know I had to do it, bro. People forget. Like I love to give intros like that because I think people forget the reason why we were even recruited. Like some of us had crazy high school careers that people kind of forget about, and the reasons why we're in those positions and whatnot. So I love to just remind the people every time I get a chance. How are you, bro?
Dude, I'm good. Loving life, doing all the important things in life. What about you, man? How's Europe?
Man, I'm chilling, bro. Europe is Europe. This is my 8th year playing pro, so I'm kind of used to it now. It's become like a repetitive thing. So just hooping, still kind of living the dream a little bit, trying to hold my own the best as I can.
Doing all the important things.
Doing all the important things, bro. I'm so happy you're on. I've been waiting to get you on for quite a while. You definitely have to come back on once we're through with this. I feel like this episode is going to be a banger. You feel me?
Definitely. I'm all about it.
Before we get super into your career and the things that you've done as a Blue Jay, we have to talk about the NDSU game that we just saw last night, I guess. The Jays beat NDSU 80-55. They held them to 35% shooting while shooting 52% from the field and 40% from three themselves. I know you had a chance to watch the game a little bit. What was your first reaction to what you saw?
It was consistent. You know what I mean? We put up 40 in the first half, and I believe we put up 40 in the second half. And overall percentages were basically the same. I mean, I want to say, looking at it, actually, it was 51% in the first half and 53 in the second half. I mean, offensively, it doesn't get much better than that. Defensively, we just weren't locked in completely the first half, but you look at the second half, they turned it up for sure. I mean, they only held them to 23 points in the second half, which if you do that to a lot of teams in the country, you're going to win a lot of games. No doubt about that.
Let's go right from there. Defensively, they look great in the second half. That's also something that I wanted to mention. The boys look like they're really flying around and communicating out there. I know how important that is for a Coach Mack-led team, especially with communication. That's something that he stresses and preaches. You and I have heard it for 4 years. You've heard it for
Facts.
5 years. When you see, the things that Coach Mack loves to implement in practice translate into games, does that give you more confidence that the Jays could provide defense like that as the year goes on?
No, definitely. I mean, there's going to be ups and downs with a young team. My freshman year was like that. We went on a 9-game spell where we didn't win a game and we lost them all by within 6 points. There's going to be ups and downs with a team like this, but you gotta stick with the process, trust the coach, trust the kids he's recruiting, and just trust the process, and things are going to go the way they need to go. They had 8 steals. I mean, that's a positive. With a point guard like Ryan, I mean, there's a lot of potential. There's just a lot of potential. And you add 7 foot, I don't even know what he is. You add 7'2", 7'1". I mean, that's positive.
A big thing about their defense, obviously, is the return of Sharif Mitchell.
Yes.
He's though some injuries kind of early on in the season. He's still working his way back, but it's just so good to see him out on the floor. We all know what he can provide defensively. What does that do for the Jays to see somebody like him kind of manning the defense at the very top of the key the way that he does?
I don't know what it is about Omaha guys and knowing how to play defense so good. I mean, you think about,
Yeah.
I mean, Justin was a presence at the rim. I don't care what anybody says, he was a presence. I mean, when you go to Kyrie fence, no doubt about that. And then you had somebody like Sharif who is fast and just he wants to play defense. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of people. I mean, I coach high schoolers right now, and there's a lot of people that don't want to play defense or the defensive end of the floor. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
fun, it's exhausting, but I
Mm-hmm.
mean, somebody's got to do it. And these Omaha guys, they definitely want to do it and they know how to do it for sure. It's kind of like those Canadians.
Now, there's something in that tap water in Omaha because trust me, I came from Canada. I didn't want to play defense before I got
And the
there.
truth said here on December 2nd, the truth has finally come out.
Listen, coming out of high school, man, I was just trying to get a bucket. But I mean, every player has their different roles, right? One of the big reasons why
Yeah.
I took such pride on the defensive end of the court was one of my early meetings with Coach Mack, where he really stressed, like, look, we have more than enough offensive talent on this team. If you want to get on the floor, you really have to separate yourself on the defensive end, and that's certainly what I took pride on since that day, basically, and it just kind of carried me on through my whole career. But like I said, I'm certainly no Kyrie. I'm definitely no Sharif. Those guys have instincts that I don't think I ever had in
It's
my game.
crazy. It's
It's
absolutely
it,
crazy.
it's insane. Like the way that he just moves directions so easily, and he's not even at 100% yet from what we're seeing.
Man, I can't wait until he gets healthy. I mean, with the battle of the foot injury and then now the
Mhm.
groin, like I feel like where he's at. So I mean, it's as soon as he gets healthy, it's gonna be great. I mean, that's gonna sell the team from being good to decent, very, very good really quickly, I
Mhm.
believe, because you're now getting depth. And in the league like the Big East, you need depth.
Yeah. You mentioned Cogbrenner already. He definitely had a big game, 17 points, only missed one shot 7 of 8 from the field. A couple of big dunks in there as well. He's definitely finally showing some of the signs that we were all anticipating going into this year, having played for Team USA in the summer, the under 19 team, and now translating into his sophomore year. What are some of the things that you saw from him, especially in the second half, that you really like?
I want to say growth. I mean, not only on the offensive end, going 7 of 8 is crazy, but I mean, just defensively, being a presence. You're that big, you need to be a presence, and I think he's starting to learn that. And Mack does such a good job with big men, excluding myself, who couldn't jump over a phone book. But um, but I mean, Matt does such a good job developing big man. I mean, you can't. I mean, you look at his son. You look
Yeah.
at Justin. Justin's had a good career, not a great career post college, but he's starting to click now that he's getting healthier too. I think that's the
Mhm.
same thing that's going to happen for Ryan when he finally hits that stride. I think this year is going to be a big growth year for him, and it needs to be. Because ultimately that's what's going to turn this team from a Sweet 16 run last year to hopefully something bigger here, in the next
Mhm.
this year or even years to come.
Before we move on to the next topic, let me tell you guys a little bit about our partners over at BetRivers Sportsbook. If you haven't signed up with BetRivers yet, now's the time because they're offering a $250 match bonus for your first deposit. But what sets them apart is that they require just one playthrough to turn your bonus into cash money. With their new Rush Pay instant approval, withdrawing your winnings is safer, more secure, and more reliable. With basketball season tipping off, get in on the action by going to betrivers.com today or by downloading the BetRivers iOS app. You must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call telephone number 1-800-GAMBLER. Other Jays who contributed wonderfully: Arthur Kaluma, 11 points; Ryan Nemhard, 10.6 assists; Alex O'Connell, 10 points, 4 rebounds; Sharif Mitchell, 9 points, 2 assists off the bench. So you mentioned depth already. How
Yes.
good does it feel to see numerous Jays, put their imprint on the game? And that's not to mention Ryan Hawkins, who didn't play his best game as a Jay, but we certainly know what he can provide. And I just mentioned Arthur Kaluma with 11 points. I don't think we've seen his best basketball yet either. So
No. The dude
again,
is
I'm going to
stupid
ask you,
athletic.
and very talented. I had a
Oh
chance to be
my
around him this
God,
summer a
dude.
little bit, and believe me, from what I'm seeing, like he hasn't even uh, been close yet to scratching his potential. So
Jeez.
with that being said, I'm going to ask you again, confidence meter 0 to 10. How do you feel about, the Jays depth and seeing a whole bunch of guys being able to contribute on a night in, night out basis?
Man, I mean, I'm confident in him. I've got a lot of respect and confidence in Coach Mack and what he brings to the table. I'm around a 7, 7, 8 for this squad at this moment. There's still a lot of ifs. I mean, this is I think the second game this year where they've actually taken a little bit of pride and blown a team out. There's just been a lot of close calls, which is good because it's teaching them they got to win those games. So I am worried about the Big East because the Big East this year, dude, I've watched almost every team play. They are
Talented.
good, dude. And
Yeah.
like I was like last year, I was on the fence about the Big East being really good, but geez, they came back and just said, yeah, I don't know what the score was between the Big Ten Big East game, but I mean, you're competing with a Power 5 conference.
6-2, baby. Big East
So
took
I
it
mean,
easily.
I was talking to my assistant coach, Coach AU, for my old team, and I was talking to my assistant's coach. He's a big Badger guy, huge Badger guy. So I was talking to him, and I'm like, hey, you know what? I went and watched a couple of my kids play, and I'm like, hey, you know what? Like, I'm pretty sure the Big East beat the Big Ten this year. It was pretty substantial too. So I mean, does that make the Big East superior, or is it just a one-time thing? He's like, oh, get out of here. The Big Ten's always going to be superior. I just had to rattle the cage a little bit to see where he was at.
Hey, trust me, I have a teammate here that played at Ohio State. So during that entire week, I was talking smack about how trash the Big Ten is and all that stuff. Believe me, I was doing the exact same thing. So then when Xavier went down there and beat Ohio State, I was on his head the next day, bro. You already know. Like I came into the locker room talking so much smack. So
oh my god,
yeah,
that's great.
like the Big East all around, I think as improved from the year before. I would agree with you on that statement for sure. It's going to be they have a tough road ahead of them, to say the least.
Bro, did you watch any of the Seton Hall Michigan game? Like, Seton Hall is dangerous. I mean, and then you bring in squads like Villanova and Xavier. I mean, I watched Georgetown play a little bit. They've always got it. It's just sometimes they don't bring it every night. So, I mean, God, it's going to be as soon as, Big East play starts here in a couple weeks. I mean, it's going to get freaking nuts.
I'm really excited to see it. Before that, obviously, we know that the Jays are 7-1 right now. They got the toughest part of their schedule coming up. You could say that for a young team playing, let's call it a little bit of a lesser competition leading up to this point has been good for them because they've had to learn how to win close games. They had to stick together in tough situations. We saw them go on the road and beat Nebraska, which I know you absolutely love. You know that I absolutely love.
I think every Blue Jay player loves that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's just us, bro. I think it's every one of us.
They got Iowa State coming up on Saturday. Going into this tough stretch, what is some of the advice that you can give, you being someone that's been on a young Jays team who's had to face a top 25 opponent at home and deliver that upset on multiple occasions, might I add? What is some of the advice as you, Toby Hegner, someone who's gone through that situation a couple of times, can give this young team?
Man, you know what? It's trust the coaching staff is the biggest thing. But, before, I want to say it was my senior year, we played Villanova. They were number 1, and I believe they won it that year. And we were playing them at home late February. And there was something happened, we were watching film or something, and somebody got up on the scorer's table and started screaming and shouting, yeah, we're here kind of thing. I went to being a senior. I went to the group and I'm like, guys, we're not going to this game with that kind of mindset. We're going in like we belong here. We've been here. We deserve to be here. So we're going to beat these guys. We ain't going to jump on tables. We ain't going to scream in their face. We're going to shake their hand, say good job, and see you in the NCAA tournament.
Right.
And I think that's the biggest thing, attitude you got to have. Act like you've been there, act like you deserve to be there, and all the dominoes are going to fall into the right place. Don't become somebody that you're not. Trust the coaches, trust the guy to your left and your right, and you just got to battle together. It's a war, dude. If you don't trust the people around you, it ain't going to be successful.
One of those upsets was against Oklahoma your freshman year. I remember losing my mind. I was in Romania at the time. That was my first experience of staying up till like 4 o'clock in the morning to watch the boys play, knowing full well that I had practice 4 hours later. Uh, you know that the now Shy Health Center is going to be rocking. What do you
For sure.
expect that environment to feel like for such a young team who I don't think they haven't seen anything such as that? Maybe O'Connell playing at Duke, Ryan Hawkins being a Division II champ. Those guys have certainly had that kind of experience, but not in a Blue Jay uniform. So what do you expect? How is the team going to respond?
Dude, when I know you know this, but when the crowd gets into the game,
Mm-hmm.
there's absolutely no doubt in my mind. You hear it and you just fuel off of it, and you just
Mm-hmm.
you start to become, it's almost like an out of body experience, dude. Like you're more locked in, you're more focused, you're ready to go to war. You're looking at the guy next to you, you're looking at the guy to your left, right, and you're like, let's get it.
Yeah.
We got 18,000 people behind us. They've got 10 sitting on their bench. Let's get it. So, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be popping. I'm so excited to watch it. I got a lot of Iowa State fans in my family. I played with a couple of guys that went to Iowa State. So I'm definitely going to be talking that smack.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna be tuned in for sure. You already know.
Hmm.
Toby, I gotta ask you, bro. Obviously, we talked a little bit about your career in the open, but I need to know, when did basketball really start to matter for you? Like, what age were you at where you're like, hey, I'm pretty good at this thing, and if I keep improving, there's some goals that I could certainly reach.
Yeah, definitely. So I started playing ball. God, I was probably in third grade. I always played basketball, but I started playing competitive ball back in third grade. But I played up because I was a little bit taller. I wasn't much taller, but I was
Hmm.
pretty average height until probably like seventh, eighth grade, going into my freshman year of high school. But it was just a I was a kid. I wanted to play sports. I had a bunch of good friends, so I kind of stuck with that friend group for a long time. And then, seventh, I think it was like seventh grade, we had a tournament or something, and I just put up a stupid number on a team. And an AU coach was there or something, watching one of his kids play on the other team, and he was like, "Hey, you should come and try out for our team." And my dad's like,
Mhm.
What the hell is AU?" So we were kind of like just thrown into the situation. And I went to tryouts. I made the B team, if you want to call it a so-called B team. So I played that year with them, got better, and then I was like, screw this, dude. I can compete with those other guys. Like, there's no doubt in my mind. And that kind of just flipped a switch. And I'm just like, boom, here we go. About eighth grade year, I devoted a lot of my life to it. I ran
Mhm.
cross country in the fall to believe it or not, a 6'6" kid freshman year running cross country. Crazy. I still ran an 18-minute 3 mile. I was god tier, but I
Yeah.
did it because I wanted to stay in shape, and I felt like that was the best way to do it. I didn't want to play football. Football was big in my school, but like I'm not like I'm gonna go I'm gonna go tear an ACL. I'm gonna go break a hand, just something
Mhm.
stupid. So I'm like, I'm not gonna do that. So I ran, worked out, kind of stuff like that. But then, I mean, my recruiting year took off my freshman year. Like, I remember the day Coach Mack, this is crazy, but I remember the moment that Coach Mack offered me, because Creighton was one of those schools that wasn't high on me. But then I kind of started progressing and I grew. I was
Mhm.
actually standing in the line registering to a UNI basketball camp when Coach Matt called and gave me. So I was like on the phone, and Ben Jacobs was the coach, and he's like,
Mhm.
"Oh, who's that?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's Mac. You want to talk to him?" And he said, "Nah, I'm good." And I'm like, "Oh yeah." He just shot me an offer to come play for him, and he's like, "Oh, it's kind
Right.
of funny. We were gonna offer you too this weekend." And
Now
I'm like,
imagine that.
bro,
Imagine that.
exactly. So it just took off from there, and then I just got more and more devoted as it came freshman, sophomore, and junior, senior year.
I love that story because it kind of, it's a beautiful segue to the next question that I love to ask every guest is what other schools were you looking at, obviously, before choosing CU? And then what made you decide to choose Crane in the end?
So I've been asked this question by a lot of people. The kids that I'm coaching
Mm.
now, they're like, "How did you know? Like, what are you looking for?" Stuff like that. And CU was the first team that believed in me. So it was a
Mhm.
big thing in my eyes. I always wanted somebody to believe in me because, you know, it's always been me in my corner. Yeah, I had my family and stuff and my town and that, but like I never had anybody else in my corner. And I'm like, you know what? I need somebody there. I need someone to fight for me because I'm going to fight for them.
Mhm.
So you know, I think I had like 30 something offers by the time I was done playing or whatever. And, you know, Boston College was huge on me. I don't remember who the coach was at the time because it was 10 years ago almost now.
Yeah.
Even more. But Boston College was huge. Iowa State actually was a contender. My buddy Matt Thomas, who's playing for the Bulls right now, went there. Um, just kind of was a thing where I'm like, dude, we kill it in AU. We could go kill it at the college level and just kind of keep building this relationship. But
Mhm.
it was between Dayton was huge, obviously kind of pre-Obi era where they weren't good, but they weren't great.
Mhm.
And then obviously I had some smaller schools and stuff like that. But the reason I picked Creighton, man, is the coaching staff. Murph is actually my coach that recruited me. I was his last recruit, and me and
Mhm.
Murph have that bond where I can call him today, he'll answer, we'll just shoot the shit for a couple hours, and that's just kind of how it is. And that's how it was with all the coaches that were there, and that's how it is with all the coaches that, you know, were there through my 5 years. But ultimately it was the culture. I mean, you play in front of 17,000 people a night. It doesn't get much better than that.
It's
Coming
hard to
from
say no to that, isn't
Oh
it?
my bro, coming from a town of 5,000 people.
Right.
I lived in a village. Like my house was in a village that was
Mhm.
uncorporated. Went to
Yeah.
school in a town of 5,000 people to then go to Omaha of, you want to say, a million people, to play in front
Mhm.
of 18,000 people was just like, that was the world to me. And, you know, the education by far has taken me more places than I could ever imagine. So, I mean, it just ultimately was the right choice. You know, I thought Missouri Valley was really good for me because I
Mhm.
truly believed that I was good enough to excel at that level. Obviously we transitioned right into the Big East,
Yeah,
and
right away. Right. As soon as
so
you committed, we was gone.
it was like it was crazy, dude. It was like
Yeah.
not even a year later that they went into this transition, and I'm looking at my dad, and I'm like, the fucking the excuse my French,
No,
the
you're fine.
Big East, dude. Like, Dad, do you think I can I compete there? And he's like,
Mhm.
I don't know, but you're gonna have to freaking try. And I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
well, go drop me off, kind of thing. So, you know, there was a lot of doubt when I showed up on campus because I was a Missouri Valley recruit, just like Zach Hansen and the rest of my freshmen. I mean,
Yeah.
there's
That whole class that you kind of inherited before we all left, we were all Valley boys too. We all had to learn,
exactly, yeah,
and we took our lumps in the Valley too to get to where we got to in the Big East eventually. But yeah,
definitely,
I kind of, now that you mentioned it, and you saying that you were recruited for the Missouri Valley, like the more that I think about it, the more it sort of kind of makes sense to me because you are kind of the prototypical guy that Coach Mack was looking for as a Valley, a big who could really stretch the floor, in switching situations, who can hold his own when asked to. We're not going to have to do it all the time, but there's going to be times down the stretch where you're really going to have to sit down in the chair. They probably felt like you were capable of doing that. But then we just transitioned to the Big East, so that kind of changes everything. But no,
bro.
I could definitely see what the coaching staff was going after.
I have to, like, you know, looking back at it, I don't give myself enough credit because, like, I was a Missouri Valley recruit who played in a Big East school like all
Mhm.
5 years. You know,
Right.
the Darian Harris's, God bless his soul, you know, he had to leave. You know, Zach Hansen stayed, but you know, the Johnny Burns is the walk on. You know, we had 6 walk ons that year that all had to
Mhm.
leave because it wasn't gonna fit. You know, so like
Mhm.
the Tyler Clements, the Zach Hansons, the me's, you know, dug in, put our claws into the meat and said, we're here.
Yeah, we're staying.
You aren't kicking us out.
Yeah.
We're gonna outwork everybody we can, and we're gonna earn our role. And I think that goes kind of unnoticed because, like you said, nobody really thinks about that. Like I could have
Mhm.
had, like, reminiscing on it, like I could have had a great career in the Missouri Valley. You know, I could have played the 4 or the 5, where in the Big
Mhm.
East, I think what Mac and I figured out my senior year is I'm better at the 5 because I can defend somebody bigger than me. I'm going to do my job better at the 5. And
Mhm.
for some reason, all these freaking Big East teams want to put 6'6" foremen out there who are stupid fast. Newsflash, Jay, I'm not that fast.
Yeah, I figured that part out rookie year or freshman year, I should say.
I was there for my jumper and my jumper only. Okay. Pound it.
Oh man.
But no, bro, I mean, it's just there's a lot of stuff that goes unnoticed, and I truly like reminiscing, looking back on it now that I've been out of it for so long. I'm like, I can't even be mad about my career. You know, I could have been 1,000-point scorer. Yeah, whatever, you know, but I lived my best life. And that's what I tell everybody that asks me, like, why aren't you playing? Injuries, and I've lived my best life, dude. I don't regret a single decision I made. And that's important.
We were teammates just for that year. I know every incoming freshman wants to come in and have a positive impact on the team, but you know, you and the coaching staff spoke about it. You decided mutually to redshirt that year. Talk to me about how tough a redshirt season year for someone like you who's so competitive. Like I remember you and Doug and Ethan used to battle, and you know, you got the short end of the stick most of the time. I'm not gonna lie to you, but you were in there battling every day trying to get better. So how difficult of a decision was it for you, and what did you learn about yourself during that year?
I'm still close with Doug because and Ethan because of that, and you. I'm really close with you guys. Like that class was like, God, that I wish I was 4 years older, but that's besides the point. I joke with Doug about it all the time that I made him an All-American. You know, I'm taking all credit for that his senior
year. Mind you, he was a 2-time All-American before he showed up. But okay.
Chill. Not everybody in the world knows that. All right. No, but it was such a good learning experience, man. You know, like coming in, like Mack and I had the talk, like Doug might not come back, dude. Like you're going to be thrown into the fire. Like you're going to figure it out. And I'm like, I'm all in, let's go. And, you know, when Doug came back, it was a huge blow to me because I'm like, well, I'm not going to play behind a 2-time All-American at the time. So I'm like, you know, Mack and I talked and we're like, redshirt is probably the best call. You know, would you rather play a couple minutes at 18 years old, or would you rather play 25 minutes at 22, be 23 years old? And I thought it was the best decision. You know, being a grown man, you know, my senior year really helped me against some of those younger guys that we played against. It was ultimately a good call. You know, it was absolute hell a lot of the time because you got people like, God bless their soul, I have the best relationship with Coach Lutz and D-Rock because of it. But man, I mean, some of the things they made us do was just silly. Like
they got after you a little bit.
Oh my God, dude. I've ran into Lutz and D-Rock a couple times now. And we were sitting around at Johnny McHugh's wedding and Lutz we were just shooting the shit. Jeff was there and we're like, where do you come up with your red shirt workouts? And he's like, there's just some things that come to me. I was like, yeah, chasing people around the court, dribbling 2 basketballs, playing grown man tag. And if you don't catch them, you keep going. Like that makes a lot of sense. That's on YouTube. Right? What? Like just some of the stuff we did was just outrageous.
Hey,
but
Toby, there's a method to the madness, brother. Don't ever question Lutz, bro.
Trust the process. The best part is though, is like we have that relationship now that I can question him. And I'm like, back then I kept my mouth shut. I'm like, bro, coach, I'll do. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I will do it. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I will say this though about those Coach Lutz workouts. If it didn't teach you toughness, I don't know what would, because like he just physically challenged you to a point where like mentally you just had to get over the fact that you're going to be absolutely exhausted, but you still have to do the work. So there is a method to the madness, and I understand it now. Believe me, you and I probably are in the same situation. Oh. Hindsight is 20/20. You know, looking back on it now, you're like, yeah, that made me a tougher guy. That made me a better player. But like, as you're going through, you're like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy?
Bro, the what the fuck quote came into your head every time. Hey, coach, we have a red shirt workout today because it's game day. Yep. What the fuck?
Right. But here's what I will say. I will accept no Lutz slander on this podcast of mine. Obviously, he's a head coach now. He's going to do great things. I'm sure of it. But yeah, I mean, it is tough. I witnessed it. I can't say I necessarily went through them all. I had some off-season workouts with him where it was very challenging, but those retro workouts, I saw what you guys were going through, and
the worst.
Is pity the right word to use in that situation?
The worst part is like I was cool with it. We were doing workouts and stuff, and we would do it before the games and stuff. The worst part is when you mother, yeah, you know where I'm going. When you guys would come out of the freaking locker rooms while you're sitting there drinking your Gatorades and chilling, and would sit there and watch us and just fucking heckle us the entire time, and I was just like,
had to be done, Toby. Had to be done. I'm sorry,
mental
brother.
toughness was built that day. But no, it was, I will never slander any of the coaches, whether you go from, Sellers who moved on to the Lutzes, to the D-Rots, to the Murphs, even the Gordies of the world. I would never say anything. I'll give them a hard time, but I would never slander anything about them because I respect them all way too much.
Of course. You talked about some of the injuries that you have to deal with throughout your career. We talked in the open about Sharif Mitchell kind of dealing with some of that early to start the year. Some of those injuries you're able to play through, some of them kind of sat you out for a little bit of time. How tough is it going through, such situations? Because a guy like myself, knock on wood, I haven't had too many injuries in my career that sat me out. But how tough is it to be going through that situation where, like I said already, you're so competitive, you really want to be out there, you want to do whatever you can to help your team, but sometimes you get sidelined for those injuries, and it just kind of throws you out of the rotation, or, kind of throws you off your game for a little bit.
I think a lot of the Lutz workouts, the mental toughness portion of injuries, like you said, Lutz built mental toughness. Like, I don't care what, you can talk to anybody who he's coached you how to be mentally tough. And what helped me through a lot of those situations is mentally, you're like, my team's moving on, they're leaving me behind. There's just, it's a mental battle that a lot of people don't understand because they're not in those shoes. And, I could straight out tell you that I would say more than 50% of my career, I was in a boot. There's no doubt in my mind about it. I think my junior and senior year, I was in a boot probably 5 days a week. And that's just kind of how it was. I mean, you fight through things that you can, and if you can't, you figure it out. I mean, there was a time my senior year where I was doing you obviously were never there for the Cole Huff knee issues and stuff like that, but I was on a kind of similar regimen of his where I would lift and stuff, but I'd only practice an hour a day. Because if I went more than an hour a day, my ankles the next day were shot. So like I would sit there and I'd watch the guys go through the shooting and the shell drills and the stuff that I knew how to do. And I would jump in when it came to like 4-on-4, 5-on-5 stuff because obviously chemistry is an important thing. But my entire senior year was that way. And when it came to fighting through the injuries and I got shot up with lidocaine and every game day. I mean, you can ask any coach about it. I feel like they'd be honest about it. You can even ask Katie Greer, who was my surgeon. She's the one that did it 90% of the time. I mean, it's for me to play basketball my senior year, I needed to fight through probably some of the most excruciating pain. And then, you add all that stuff going on, and then kind of going into, I assume, a next topic. But then you add my mom getting breast cancer, going into my senior year, going into February, I've been throwing curveballs. I rolled my left ankle. I was about to give Patton from Northwestern buckets all night long. That's just that's the attitude I had. I had the first 5 points of the game or whatever, and then I ended up rolling my left ankle, and I sat a couple games, and I fought through it. I'm like, this is my freaking senior year. I'm not sitting out. We're going to freaking Gonzaga. I'm not missing out on that game. We got Nebraska the next week. I don't care if I play 4 minutes. I don't care if I play 30 minutes. I'm fighting through it. And that's ultimately what I did for the entire time until, mom kind of came up to me. Well, it was kind of crazy, actually. It was the pink out game. Peyton, my now wife, brought me over to the hotel after the game, and I sat down in mom's room and she was crying. And I'm like, we just won. We had a great time. Like, what happened? And she told me, and I just fell to the floor. And I'm just like, what does this mean? I'm trying to show, you try to be the tough guy in a lot of situations. I mean, that's what men do. They try to not show weakness. And I feel like at that moment, I was weak. And I had
Yeah.
to, after conversations with Mack, and I had to be tough. I had to show mom that, hey, don't worry about me, get healthy. I'll fight through what I got to do here. But, you know, she told me that. I met with Coach Mack, Mack knew like weeks before I did. And they just, nobody wanted to tell me because she had surgery like a week after that game. And nobody wanted to tell me because they didn't want me to be just not there. And, you know, Mack and sat down with Mack. He's like, I'll fly you home. Like, no doubt about it. I'll fly you home. You can be there for the surgery, stay with her for a day, and then come back and we'll take care of business the rest of the year. And you can worry about, you know, that moving forward, just be there for her kind of thing. And, you know, Mack was my rock in that situation, like he is for most of us when we're going through some things. And, you know, my relationship with Mack was, you know, freshman, sophomore year, I feel like we were butting heads. You know, junior year, senior year, we kind of developed that relationship where we respected one another. And, you know, and to this day, like it's a joke, but he always goes and hugs my wife before he comes and says hi to me because she's the one that tried to keep me healthy and through all that and keep me sane. And so he respects her for that. But it was a crazy senior year, injuries and everything. Like I know what Sharif's going through to the extreme. And I pray a lot of days that no athletes have to go through what I did, because, you know, I was fighting injuries when I was there my freshman year. I mean, it was, my ankles just were just how my ankles were. So I pray that he's young, that he'll get over this and that nobody has to endure anything that I had to go through for sure.
Definitely wanted to get into that subject with, you know, you finding out about your mom's breast cancer. First, I definitely have to ask you, you know, Coach Mack, having gone through that situation with Tree, do you think, obviously, him having gone through that situation, understanding the mental toll that it could take on an individual, helped you in that situation, or would you have rather have known, you know, a little bit beforehand when it happened? Obviously, your mother tells him, they both mutually decide it's probably not best to tell Toby right now, before finally your mother telling you in the hotel room, like you just mentioned. Would you have rather had known at the point, looking back on it, or do you think that it was probably better because of where you were at that stage in your life for them to do it that way?
I was playing good basketball at that point too, so I think a lot of that might have had to do with it. But yeah, I'm almost grateful that they waited, because the pink out game was always a huge ordeal for me personally.
Yeah,
And a lot
for all of us.
yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of people. I mean, my grandma died. It's almost been 11 years now, due to, it wasn't breast cancer, but it was due to cancer. So that would always hit home for me for that game. And my mom never missed it. My grandfather, who was married to that grandmother, he is still alive, 87 actually. But he would always come to those games just because of the
The
significance.
significance of it. Yeah.
Exactly. So I respect their decision to not tell me at the time, because, you know, again, my whole family was there for that game. I think they all conversated and said, hey, we all need to be there because this is what I'm going to tell Toby, kind of thing. So my family was there. Peyton's family was there. You know, I had a ton of shoulders to lean on. And you know, I know, you know, P, but she was a huge portion of me staying sane during that time. There's no doubt about it. Cause you know, there was times where she would start to like, I don't know if it was 2 weeks or 3 weeks before that game that she found out, but she was like, after my mom told me, like, Peyton and I went back to our apartment, or her apartment, and she was like, I've been keeping the secret for 3 weeks, and just started crying and all that, just finally let the emotions out. So it was kind of mutual, where I would let my emotions, she would. So it was good to have her around. But with Mack and Tree, I mean, Tree came up to me and reached out, and, you know, like I said, Mack's a very humble and understanding guy. And a lot of people don't see that, because he's the head coach. His job is to win basketball games. If you don't win basketball games, they don't want you.
Out of a job. Yeah.
Exactly. So, you know, looking past the coach portion of Mack and looking more at the dad figure and the mentor figure of Mack. And I know, you know, this because you love him as much as the rest of us do, but, you know, God bless his soul for him being there for me in that moment. Cause, you know, there's a lot of coaches that wouldn't do that, I believe. And a lot of coaches that wouldn't have flown me back for the surgery. I don't think that would have happened. So.
This leads me to our first Twitter question of the day from Marianne McDonald on Twitter. how's Mama Hegner doing? Is she doing fine? Is she okay? Is everything going well? How is she?
Mama Hegner's good. She's good.
Yeah.
She's in remission. I want to say this is the last year she has to take her pill to help prevent stuff.
Hmm.
But yeah, she's healthy. She's actually been mostly retired since the whole ordeal. So my dad's held a big portion of working and all that stuff, but she's been kind of staying low and all that. But Mama Hegner's good. She's got 3 grandchildren now, begging me and P for more.
Yeah.
She's doing just fine. So no
Yeah.
worries on the Hegner home front. There's no doubt about that. Obviously it was a
Good.
scary situation, but we're as good as can be.
That's always good to hear. I want to go back a little bit to your junior year, beating Wisconsin at home. I think they were number 9 in the nation, if I remember correctly. How good of a feeling is it for a Wisconsin kid to beat Wisconsin at home as a now member of a Big East team when he was a Valley recruit to begin with?
So the Wisconsin game was
Nuts.
was nuts. And like I played like 20 minutes that game. I only had
Hmm.
I only had 3 points, but defensively I was kind of just everywhere. And I was doing the right things. So I
Hmm.
didn't have a huge impact that game. So when everybody asked me, they're like, how was the game? And I'm like, well, I had 3 points. And then I'm like, oh, but I did all these other things. But no, the Wisconsin game was nuts because Nigel Hayes was there when I was getting recruited. Bronson
Hmm.
Koenig. I played against Bronson my entire life in AU. Sam Decker obviously wasn't there, but Zach Showalter was, just a lot of the dudes that I grew up playing against
Hmm.
were there. So it hit home when I was like, and a lot of my high school buddies, screw them, fuck them, are they're a bunch of Badger fans. So they were all texting me
Toby
saying,
coming in with the sauce today. Tell me how you really feel, Wisconsin boy.
man, I was frustrated. They're like, oh, we're Creighton fans when you aren't playing Badgers, and they're like all
Right,
rooting for the Badgers. So I was like, God, if we don't win this game, I'm not going home.
right.
I'm not doing it. I'm staying Omaha, Omaha,
Home.
home.
Yeah.
But we ended up winning, and I can tell you when I went back for Christmas, I was talking that smack.
Hmm.
No doubt. I don't
Uh,
even care if I had 3 points or if I had
110%.
30 points. I
Yeah.
was in it. But no, it was the Wisconsin game was great. Greg Gard was a really good, not necessarily friend of mine, but he is not now.
Hmm.
But he recruited me a little bit and all that stuff. So it was good. We ended up playing in Kansas City my senior year, and they were there in the Hall of Fame Classic tournament or whatever it's
Hmm.
called. And we didn't play them, but we were at the same hotels and meet and greets and all that stuff. So like catching up with them, I was giving it to Greg Gard hard that night, just saying, "What's up, coach?" Round 2.
Yeah.
I was hurt at the time too, which is horse. Oh, I'm so pissed, but I'm happy we didn't play
Yeah.
him. But I was talking that smack on crutches, like, "What's up, coach?" Like, you want a rematch kind of thing, 2-0. I'm not,
Right.
just give him a hard time, but it was
I
it
mean,
was it was
my team beat him in Vegas for
I
that
was there. I was there.
invitational or whatever. So I mean, we got a pretty good thing going against our
Yeah.
Wisconsin team, if I
Oh,
do say
for
so myself.
sure. I was actually there. That was the first time. Well, I knew Zach Hansen, but that was the first time we all got to like hang out and watch y'all play and stuff. And
Right.
that was a great game. I remember. I don't remember
Yeah.
it in detail, but I remember it was a lot of fun.
I just remember Gregory Echenike. No one wanted a piece of him down there in the post. I remember that guy's just moving out the way. And then
Greg.
obviously Doug being Doug and Ethan. Actually, if I remember correctly, I was thinking that Ethan just started splashing from
Mm-hmm.
3 2. So yeah.
Greg.
What were you
Greg
about to
was,
say about Echenike?
bro. Like I know Greg from passing and stuff. Like, I've
Mhm.
never texted him, never kind of been that kind of relationship, but we always say what's up when we run into each other. But that dude is a big dude. Like,
Yeah.
there's no, like, I played against a bunch of big dudes in my career. Like, there's a kid from Xavier, I can't even think of his name. And then
Mhm.
there's obviously Georgetown always had big dudes like Govan and stuff. But like, I would never, ever want to
Mhm.
put my cards up against Greg. No doubt in my mind.
Try being an incoming freshman weighing 165 pounds and getting hit by a screen from that guy. That was
No.
my experience with Greg when I first ever met him during my visit when we played pickup.
Yeah.
golly. And at that time, that's when he was coming from Rutgers. He was transferring in. He had to sit out, so he had gained a whole bunch of weight. He told me at that point he was weighing around like 290, almost 300 pounds when he was playing when I was on my visit. So yeah, man, Greg is
He's a
he's
big
not someone you
dude.
want to deal with down there. That's why he's
No.
making what he's making all over the world right now. So
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. It's a
shouts
good dude
out
to
to
have in
you,
your
Greg.
corner. Yeah.
Yeah, shouts out to you, Greg. We love you, bro. But please stop sending screens on me, man. Please,
Nope.
begging you.
Nobody likes to run into a brick wall, Greg. God.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Oh
The
man.
next Twitter question comes from Sam Norland. His question is, what is your most memorable moment and why is it the Dunks versus Nebraska? So I think we already know. We
No.
talked about the Wisconsin game. I feel like he felt very fondly about that. But I think those moments against a rival team, kind of a little bit unexpected, coming from you
Mhm.
with dealing with all the injuries. You mentioned in the open that you couldn't jump over a phone book. So how does that feel like to know that you're in Pinnacle Bank dunking over the in-state rivals?
Man, the worst part is I caught two bodies on that putback, and I can't
Mhm.
find a picture of it anywhere because I want to. I want to
It
let
did
you
you dirty.
that I know there was 15 freaking people taking photographs that night, and they were all
Yeah.
sitting there, and I know for a fact
Uh,
somebody had them, and they just deleted them.
they did you
But
dirty, bro.
that was kind of out of the ordinary. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I believe my fall into early winter of my junior year was my best basketball. Um,
Mhm.
I was coming off the bench with Isaiah. We were just a deep team that year. Like
Yeah.
before WAP gets hurt, you're talking Final Four. I mean, just with how deep we are with bringing Zach Hansen's, the Isaiah Zierdens, the Toby Hegners off the bench, who've all have
Mhm.
starting potential and experience. Like I believe it was my best basketball, and I was playing my healthiest. And then obviously I rolled another ankle and all that freaking fun stuff. But
Mhm.
the dunks against Nebraska, I have a tweet every time we play Nebraska. It's yearly now. It's a gift
Yeah.
that one of everybody's seen it. It's a gift
Yeah.
from one of the Creighton guys that made it. It's just ruin. I think it says something about like ruin a Husker fan.
Ruin and yeah,
Yeah.
I've definitely seen that. That's the like we're going into the Christmas season. That's the gift that keeps on giving right
Oh
there.
my
Every
God,
single
bro.
year we're able to watch just that
Oh
clip.
my God. It's just like I haven't played. This is like going on 4 years now. Or
Yeah.
yeah, 4 years
No,
now.
more
I
than
haven't
that.
played.
Wait,
No,
has
it'd
it
be
been?
4.
Yeah, I guess 4 years. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going on 5 next year or next season
Mhm.
or whatever. But so you're talking, people still remember 4 years later. So
Mhm.
I'm just gonna keep giving the gift until I'm old and retired and be like
Nice.
telling my kids like that was me back in the day. What's up, kind of thing.
Do
But
your AAU kids look at that and be like, "There's no way that's coach. Like that's got to be photoshopped."
they the weird part is like I don't know if you know this now, but like 14, so I coach, they're now 15-year-olds. But I
Mhm.
had 14s last year, and kids don't like texting. Like, we always had a group chat, like a group
Mhm.
message. Kids are about Snapchat. So like they
Oh.
all took it from Twitter and put it on Snapchat and then sent it to me and said,
Mhm.
no way this was you. You said you were a shooter in college. You have no bounce. And like
Right.
I think the next day we had a practice or something like a month later or something, and we did. Do you remember the Cavalier finishing drill, dude? Where you
Yeah,
lined
of
up?
course.
Oh my God.
In the free throw line extended,
Yep.
and you just toss them to
Yep.
one of the guys. Yeah.
So I brought that drill in to play one of the practices, and I
Mhm.
started practicing with the kids to teach them, a little bit more toughness. Like you aren't the biggest kid in the gym, but you need to learn how to play
On
against the
the
biggest
way.
kid in the gym.
Yeah.
And so we were doing that drill, and they were just talking smack about my bounce.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I had my ankle braces on, I had my shoes tied, and I'm like, Coach, I had my assistant come in and start tossing the ball, and I'm like, all right, let's go. So the first
Yeah.
couple, I did the layups and stuff, but there was this one kid, and his name was RJ. He was talking mad smack.
Mhm.
Um, I told coach to give it to me. I was on the left wing, and I told him to give it to me, and he gave it to me. I took one dribble, and I just went over him, and I just tomahawked it on him, and he just fell
Yeah.
to the ground, and immediately you just felt the gym just go quiet, and they were like, all right, coach, we're not going to talk about your bounce anymore. So, yep, me dunking on a 14-year-old is now the
Yeah, I was about to
highlight.
say, Toby, how do you feel proud? Do you is this pride being able to dunk over a 14-year-old,
It's
or
not
are you
pride,
just trying?
Jay. Proving a point. I'm proving a freaking point.
It's the principle. It's
Sometimes
the
you got to let these
principle of
kids
it
know
all.
nowadays.
Oh, I agree. I totally agree. I'm not against it. I'm just saying, uh, they are 14. I mean, you know what I mean? Like that. That's all that I'm saying.
Yeah. But me and him have the
Yeah,
best relationship because of it now. I like to give him a hard time about it. He gives me a hard time
yeah,
about it. So it's
of
good.
course.
But the dunks at Nebraska are always gonna be kind of that moment. But looking back at it, I've had so many good ones. You talked about the Oklahoma game my freshman year, being down
Mhm.
22, coming back to beat Buddy Hield, and I think it was Isaiah Thomas, and there's just a bunch of hoopers on that team. I I did get the beer dumped on my head, so I kind of like to not say
Yeah.
that. The whole not 10 situation. I
I,
don't like
I
putting.
did want to ask you, how difficult was it to kind of play the rest of that game with that beer smell? Because like for those of us who drink beer, beer can kind of have like
It's
that potent smell.
mhm. It was horrible, dude. Like
Yeah,
you add beer and then you add sweat.
yeah.
It is just not a mixture that anybody
I
wants to
think
deal with.
I think you were going through your long hair phase at the time, if I'm
I
not
was, yeah.
mistaken. You were, oh God.
I was. My freshman and sophomore year, I was rocking
Yeah.
even a little bit of my junior year, I was rocking long
Mhm.
hair. But yeah, it was all types of. I was so frustrated. You watch the video, you see me smack the floor, and just the beer just
Yeah.
pops off the ground, and it's just like it was so frustrating. And then like I went to the shower, and like you're sitting there and you're scrubbing yourself, and like, bro, I smelled like beer for like I'm at least 48 hours. Like it was just
Yeah.
horrible. But
That's bad.
nobody wanted to guard me. I put up 17 that game. So what's up? I mean,
Easy. Tell him, Tobes.
no, nobody wanted
Easy,
to guard
buddy.
somebody that smelled like shit. So, but no, I mean,
Before,
go ahead.
no, I finished that story.
So, going back to the Oklahoma game,
Mhm.
then you go to the Wisconsin games, you go to the Villanova number one. We were the last team to beat Villanova that year. So, like as much as I want to pride that they won the national championships, like, what's up? We beat you last, so suck it, kind of
Yeah.
thing. But there were so many good moments. Like playing at Gonzaga was, I only played 15 minutes, but I made a couple shots. I was probably at like 60%. But playing there was sick. Playing at all these NBA arenas. There's just so many good memories about my entire career. I can't even explain them all.
Bro, you are so perfect at setting me up with segues because there are some questions I always ask guests, and we're
Yeah,
about to
okay.
get into it before I let you go. Favorite place to play in the Big East? Let's hear it.
Um, I would say the most challenging place to play was at Providence.
Yeah,
The
I
worst, the
I
worst part
agree.
about Providence fans, and there's no
Hmm.
no knock to Providence, no knock to Cooley. Cooley's a cool dude. We always got dinner
Hmm.
with Cooley the day before the game, so I mean him and Mack are always chill.
Yeah.
But like Providence fans, I don't know if you noticed this because you only played 1 year, but playing 5 years there, you kind of notice things. Providence fans don't root for Providence; they root against you.
Right. Okay, I
They
got
don't.
you.
They don't
That's a
care.
major difference. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like there was, I think my now wife was sitting there with her dad for a game, and they were like, these guys are just freaking rude. Like they're ruthless.
Yeah.
They were going at, I don't remember who they were going at, but they were going at somebody on the bench. And
Hmm.
Peyton was just like trying to keep her mouth shut because you're at Providence. Like you don't want to
Yeah, you're
say,
in enemy territory.
yeah.
Yeah.
So Providence was like the worst place to play
Mhm.
because of it was just challenging. It was hard to win there. But I would it's so tough, dude. Because like you talk about the rivalry between Xavier, that's always a fun atmosphere. It was always a game around my birthday too, so it was always important. But Georgetown was always really cool because I don't did we do it your senior year where we went and took kind of a tour and like did that portion
Yeah.
like
In
outside of
Washington D.C.
yeah,
Yeah,
so like
I still have
outside
like my Dropbox is full of pictures of like
yeah.
that day. Every once in a while, I'll go back and I'll look at all the monuments
Yeah.
and all that stuff.
So like outside of basketball, like Georgetown was cool and stuff like that. But looking back at it, I never played well at Hinkle. I don't think. I mean, I'd have to go back and look statistically, but I don't think I ever played well at Hinkle. But bro, everybody grows up watching Hoosiers. Who's a Hooper? To be inside of a historical place that not founded basketball, but was important to the growth of the game is overlooked first off, but is just it's breathtaking. Like it's this raggedy old gym. Like that's what it is. But you walk
it's so
into
cool though.
I can't tell you, like, I walked into it 5 times. Every time I walked into it with chills. That's just a gym that gives you that is ultimately got to be your favorite place to play outside of C-Link, which is now CHI.
Of course, yeah. I mean, that's needless to be said. That's why I didn't even think about bringing up Omaha. But favorite college basketball player growing up?
Oh man, that's tough.
Putting you on the spot here. Hey, okay. I'll take it.
No,
I'll take it. Yeah. In all seriousness, though.
Honestly, growing up, my aspirations of playing collegiate basketball grew as I grew. But I didn't watch, a lot of basketball outside of Wisconsin games. I always wanted to play collegiate basketball, but you watch the Duke North Carolinas, you watch the a lot of the Badger, you just watch some of the the Kentuckys, you watch a lot of those games when you're growing up, but like obviously Missouri Valley teams you aren't watching and stuff like that. So I couldn't really tell you who was my guy growing up. I couldn't. I honestly couldn't tell you. Like nobody truly can pop into my head at the moment, which is crazy to think about, but I'm being
that
100%
is that's a little insane to think about, because I mean, you could tell, especially where the game was heading towards, it feels as if you took your inspiration from a few different people, at your height, at your size, was one to step out and shoot the three. I would think that you would have at least one person in mind, but it's just kind of crazy.
I mean, like you have the Dirks of the world, and like I was a huge Dirk fan. Like I loved the fadeaway. I loved his jumper. He wasn't the fastest person in the world, kind of like your boy. And he couldn't jump like your boy. But he just had a smoothness to his game, and a lot of my passion came not from him, but I inspired to kind of be that guy. Gotcha. Like obviously end goal was always to play in the NBA and play professionally, which I had a lot of opportunities to do both, or at least have an opportunity to do. But I would definitely say that Dirk was kind of my guy growing up.
Favorite restaurant in Omaha? Ooh, I'm putting you on the spot, bro. I'm sorry. I should have gave you a heads up.
So the worst part about, I moved from Berlin, like I told you, 5,000 people. You go to Omaha, 1 million people, some of the best food. Like you throw
Omaha's America's best kept secret, man. I keep telling my American teammates that here, but they don't get it. Yes. Until you come, you don't know.
you throw a stone, you're hitting a hole in the wall. You're hitting gosh, there's so many. Like Leavenworth Cafe is so good. You talk about Three Happiness,
R.I.P. to Leavenworth Cafe.
Yeah, I know, it's sad. But you're talking about what's the breakfast joint over by campus?
Lisa's Radio.
Yes,
I think that one might be out too. Damn, a lot of our favorite spot might have gone under. Yeah.
But I would say my favorite restaurant to go is kind of a place where me and my now wife went a lot, kind of in our dating portion, but we went to Pitch Pizza. The old wood fire pizza is always so good. But you want to know a hidden secret? The rosemary garlic wings slap. I don't care what anybody says. They are possibly the best chicken wings I've ever had in my life.
I just had to look it up. Lisa's Radio is still alive and well. Thank God. We're good.
Bro, when you did a pancake, excuse my camera being so close, but you did a pancake the size of a plate, like it's a good place to eat. So
you already know.
But I would say Pitch Pizza is my favorite, just because there's a lot of personal memories there, but the food was always good. Always good.
You know what? Low key, I kind of like that. I'm a big Drover guy myself. I've said that over and over again on this
Mm,
podcast. I'm waiting for them to sponsor me as much as I've said it, but yeah, no, I mean you can't go wrong with Pitch. Pitch is dope for
no,
sure,
we ate at a lot of really,
dude.
like you talked about like Johnny's Steakhouse. You talk about
Mhm.
we've ate at a lot of places in Omaha, but it's something about the atmosphere of Pitch and just you walk. I mean, you walk to the two locations. I think there might be two still, but you
Mhm.
walk to either location, they're freaking packed every night.
Right,
There's
every
like,
night.
and there's a reason they're packed every night. So
Yeah.
I would have to say Pitch.
Dude, thank you so much for taking a little bit of time out of your day to step into the J with me. You already know, bro. It's
Oh,
not the
bro, I
physical
appreciate it,
J
man.
like we used to do, but this is about as good as it gets. RIP to the
RIP.
J. Bro, Toby, thank you so much, bro. I appreciate you. The rest of you guys listening, make sure to like and subscribe to the Field of 68 Media Network for more
Always.
content such as this. I'm your host, Jahenns Manigat, aka 12. This was my guest, Toby, aka Tobias Hegner. Any last words that you want to say to Jays fans while they're listening to you right
Go Jays, baby. Let it fly.
now? As always, go
As
Jays. You already
always.
know what it is. Appreciate you guys. Stay safe. Keep listening, and I'll keep talking. Take care, everyone.